Good morning, brand DIYers. It is Mark here, and it is a beautiful sunny Friday morning. I'm excited because I got a day stacked with cool stuff that I'm doing, putting briefs together, working with teams. Got a couple of projects on the go that are very exciting. So, yeah, I got my brand plate full, and I'm excited about that. And I'm also excited because I actually just got off a call with a client and we were talking about the topic that I'm going to cover today, which is crafting an awesome brand purpose. So, a brand purpose is a wonderful, wonderful tool. It's super powerful because it clarifies why we exist in this world. And don't you want to have a sense of that? So, let me backtrack a little bit. Um, when most of us create brands or most of us launch companies, we have a thing that we fill out. It's called the mission, vision, values. And I have done mission, vision, values hundreds of times for my clients. I've worked on them, I've helped hone them, and I think they do have good value. They are the traditional tools for figuring out what your company or your brand want to accomplish in the world, especially mission and vision. Values is how we show up every day, okay? What's important to us. But vision and mission are essentially what we want to do and the world we want to create. Now, there's two problems with mission and vision. Uh, the first problem is that they are, like a little kid, extremely egocentric. That is, it's all about us. What do we want to do? What world do we want to create? We. Now, the problem with that is if we lived in a vacuum and we could do whatever we wanted and it would be awesome, a lot like modern parents who are hovering over their children, telling them that everything they do is brilliant, the world would be a wonderful place with mission and vision. However, as most children discover once they're in the real world and it's not their parents who are critiquing them and telling them that they're awesome, but a boss or somebody who doesn't care about them, aka the real world, they discover that no matter what their parents said in the past, the world doesn't give a shit. And that is where purpose comes in. So, on the one hand, mission and vision are wonderful tools. They help clarify, but in the real world, they have little meaning because in the real world, the world doesn't care what your mission and vision is. The world cares what you can do for them, and that's how they're going to assess you, the real world. Second problem with mission and vision is that they've been done to death. And if something is great, if somebody has done a knee surgery a million times, well, that's the doctor you want to go to get your knee operated on because you know what they're doing. However, it can also become rote, and it can become mechanized, and it can drain all the meaning and the value out of it. And I think that has happened a lot with mission and vision. Companies creating their mission and vision, a lot of times they sit around a boardroom table and they use big highfalutin words to cover up the fact that they haven't really thought this through. And their mission and vision sounds a lot like, no insult intended, but it sounds a lot like an MBA wrote them. And so they have lots of impressive words where everyone around the boardroom table thinks that, wow, we've done good work here. It means nothing. All right? All of us have walked by boardrooms and seen these posters with our mission and vision on them, and you go, what a wank. It means absolutely nothing to nobody. So, two big problems with mission and vision. The first one is that they're inside out, that they talk about us, like a whole bunch of children whose parents tell us that we're gorgeous and smart all the time, and it's all egocentric. Once we get in the real world, bam, reality sets in. Second problem, they've been done to death, which means that a lot of times when they're done, people just kind of just use big words and overarching themes, and they don't have any guts to them. They don't have any blood in them. They're not alive. So the big idea here, the big idea is that our brand exists in a world. And the world needs to have a say in what our brand delivers. The world is an interactive place. And as much as we want to shout from the rooftops what our mission and vision is, the world doesn't care. This is where purpose enters the story. Purpose essentially flips the telescope. Instead of us saying what we're going to do and who we are, it asks the hard question, just like your boss would. What is the point of you? What are you going to do for me? What's your purpose here? Because if you don't have a purpose, you're fired. Why does the world actually need us? Now, this can be kind of an uncomfortable thing, because what we might discover is that the world doesn't really need us at all. And all you have to do is look at the success and failure rate of startups and established businesses to understand that, yeah, the world doesn't really need a lot of what we think is important. And consumers will tell us so by not buying our stuff. Now that's a hurdle for another day. I'm not even going to go into that. That is for a discussion on customer discovery, where we figure out how to develop a product that the world actually does want. All right? Now let's just assume, we're not going to cover that. Let's just assume that the world actually does need us. Now here's where it gets interesting. Oftentimes, what the world wants from us isn't what we think the world wants from us. And here's where I always fall back on this story. When I went on my own as a consultant, I thought that I would offer the world future-proof brands. That is, brands that incorporate design and strategy and sustainability and innovation. And I went out and I pitched that, and nobody wanted that. And I was amazed. How could people not want this? So I asked my boss and I said, what is it that the world wants from me? Why do people pay money to work with me? And he said, that's simple. And I got to stress this, that he said it without a hesitation, without a moment of doubt, without any sort of pause. He said, that's simple, because you're simple. I'm simple. That's what people want. I thought that was the most insulting thing I'd ever heard, because I thought I was brilliant. And what he was saying, no, they just want Forrest Gump. But he explained, and he said, no, you know what? People's lives are complicated. Brands are overcomplicated. People have created a mess of their brand, and you have a talent or a training that enables you to look at this and just cut out all the crap and just leave that simple, elegant truth. I'm like, still hate it, but I used it as my positioning. I create simple, compelling messages, and that's what's on my website. And it works, and people do want it, it turns out. But it's funny, because when you try to figure out what your purpose in the world is, a lot of times it's not what you think. So, the beauty of creating a great brand purpose is that once you decide, like I decided, that simplicity was my thing, it aligns everything you do beautifully behind that purpose. The world wants me to make brands simpler. That's what people pay me money for, and that's what they seem to like from me. Anything that I do that does not make people's brands simpler, I better get rid of that, because that's fighting with my brand. And that's not what they want. So I'm wasting my time, my money, and their concentration and their bandwidth trying to push something on them they don't want. Second, it makes things beautiful and clear. And here's where I want to talk about the milkshake theory. Clay Christensen, he was a Harvard prof, and he was working on the brand of, I think it was Burger King. And they wanted to know how to make their milkshakes better. And they said, do we make them milkier, creamier, more chocolatey, more thick, more thin? What do we do? And he did a study, and he found that the majority of milkshakes were actually sold during commuter drive times in the morning. I know, weird, right? People don't drink milkshakes in the morning. Oh, yes, they do, it turned out. Most of them did. And what had happened was he discovered that the people drinking these milkshakes drank them because it kept them busy on their long commute. Milkshake is thick. You take it in the car with you. You suck on the straw. It's got a little straw. You have to keep sucking that milkshake for the entire 45-minute commute. It keeps you busy. Yeah, and it fills the hole, so it keeps you full, even though it's kind of sugary garbage, but it fills the hole. And it's a lot easier to eat in the car or drink than a bagel would be or a donut would be. So the actual job for a milkshake that people were hiring that milkshake for, is to make the drive time less boring and to help them arrive at their destination with a feeling that they actually have something in their stomach so they can get into the day. So what do you think? What do you take from that? If your purpose in life is to make drive time easier and to give people something that'll fill the hole while they're commuting, what kind of a milkshake do you make? Do you make it chocolatey? Who cares? Do you make it thicker, thinner with cream versus milk? Who cares? What I want is something to keep me busy for 45 minutes. So maybe you make it bigger so it occupies more of my time. Maybe you make a special promotion from 7 o'clock in the morning till 9 o'clock in the morning where you can get a milkshake for 25 cents off. Maybe you make the straw skinnier so I have to suck harder and it takes me longer to get that milkshake in. Do you see how everything suddenly refocuses around this purpose? My purpose is to keep commuters busy while they're driving to work. Another one, just thought of this. You could make a shake with more protein in it, so there's less sugar, less garbage, more good stuff in there. So when you start your day, you don't actually have to stop until lunchtime to grab some more nutrition. All ideas that were completely not obvious to the people who are making the milkshakes. By shifting their focus that way and aligning to a consumer purpose, what the consumer, not consumer purpose, to a consumer need, what the consumer was hiring their milkshake to do, it helped them clarify their purpose. So a purpose lays out a wonderful sense of intention that separates our brand from most of the other brands around it. Case in point, the milkshake. Think about it. If you're the only milkshake that is created expressly for commuters, that is, it's advertised at 8 o'clock in the morning, 25 cents off at 8 o'clock in the morning, a little more protein, a little less sugar to keep people fueled longer, skinnier straw, totally counterintuitive for a milkshake, larger size to keep them going, it starts to separate that milkshake from the pack, doesn't it? All right, so we've discussed now what a brand purpose is and why it's actually better, or at least as valuable, as mission and vision. I think it's actually more valuable. So how do you craft an awesome brand purpose? Two things. Always comes back to these same two things. One, what do you think it should be? And that is actually a rephrase of a better question. What do you wake up in the morning to do? What makes you happiest? If we're happiest serving people, what type of service makes you happiest? For myself, actually, I gotta tell the truth, simplifying people's brands really, really excites me because I always see it as a puzzle. I start with something complicated and I like to finish with something simple. That really floats my boat. So what do you get the most juice out of? Second, are you aligned with what outsiders actually want? So if I love making things simple for consumers, I better darn well check that there's enough consumers out there who want their brands simplified. If you decide that you are going to create a commuter milkshake, you better actually do some research to figure out that commuters actually want milkshakes. And it's as simple as that. What do you wake up in the morning to do? What floats your boat? What gets you excited? Coupled with what are people actually looking for? And that is the simple story of how you create a powerful brand purpose. Stay tuned. Next week, another raft of great live streams, including a couple of interviews. And I hope you all have a great weekend and think about your brands on the weekend. Take care.